All right, everyone, welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 7 recap. Yes, 7 weeks are down. We are halfway through the regular season. Finally. Can actually say that we're halfway, although I guess not really finally because it's gone pretty quickly. This week, said nothing really came down to Monday night. All the matchups were decided on Sunday. There wasn't really anything that was even close. Um, yeah. Yeah. Trying to find something good, positive, in terms competitive wise for this past week, but I'm just not seeing it. Yeah. The Monday night game was fun to watch. I was expecting to see Kirk Cousins just be complete trash against the San Fran defense. He actually played pretty well, surprisingly, because he is notorious for being bad on night games. And anything else? Yeah. Not that anybody cares, really, but I am feeling much better. If you watched last week's review, towards the end there, I could feel myself actually getting sick, and I got a cold. Somebody at work last Tuesday definitely came in and was spreading disease because all week long, everybody was coughing and sneezing into their hands and not swear to God, not washing their hands. And it was making me crazy watching people said cough and sneeze and then just go right back to what they were doing. It hurts me inside to watch that. Somebody said I got sick a little bit from it. Still a little stuffy, but never was anything that was really much more than annoying, but annoying it certainly was. Anyway, like I said, you guys don't give a shit. Let's talk about the week that was, week 7. As always, we start with the defending champ, Biscuits and Porn, who I am realizing that Yahoo's weekly recap refers to him as my fantasy team. I'm assuming because the AI refuses to acknowledge the word porn in your team name, so it refers to Jim as my fantasy team. Anyway, Biscuits was trying to climb above 500 here against the Wizard of Winber, who notoriously has trouble against him every single year. But this time, the Wizard comes out on top, 193.5 to 137.8. For the Wizard, Goff goes for 44, Diggs 18, Puka 26.5. Deontay comes back, goes for 13. Somebody, please, for the love of God, get Deontay Johnson a touchdown. One, even just one will be fine. Come on, man. I think he had none last year, none so far this year because he's only played 6 or 7 quarters. Come on, just get the guy one touchdown, please. 13 points. Rashad White goes for 16. McKinnon, only 4.5. Basically what I was expecting there. Was hoping for maybe a touchdown, but I'll take the victory. Hopefully that's the last time I have to use him this year. Mark Andrews, 22.3. Jordan Addison, who I was going back and forth between him and DK. Fortunately, DK made my decision easy by not playing this week, so plugged him into the lineup to combat Biscuits having Kirk Cousins there. And Kirk Cousins' 2 passing touchdowns both went to Jordan Addison as he put up 31.3, about half of Cousins' total. So that works for me. I'll take that. For my receiver, McManus goes for about 8.3, I think. And the Tampa Bay defense should have stuck with my boys, the Baltimore Ravens, but I had Goff against them. They always hate to play your defense against your quarterback. Tampa Bay's defense, Yahoo says 13. I actually lost a couple points there because they gave up a ton of yards. It was actually 10, so I had to chip a little bit off my score there. So unfortunately, I would have had about 210 this week if I had just stuck with my Baltimore Ravens. I just gotta stick with my. Stop tinkering and just stick with your guys. Goff and Baltimore are your guys. I would be in first place at 6-1 right now, laughing at Brian if I had just not got cute and tried to play around with my lineup and said tinkering never works, always messes up. So never what you want to happen is never what you want to happen is never what happens. I should say. But anyway, regardless, the Wizard gets the victory, knocks Biscuits and Porn to 3-4. Cousins goes for just under 62. His receivers, Devontae, Jacoby, and Olav, 9, 18, and 12.7. I should add, Olav, who got arrested after he left Biscuits and Porn's team. Well, technically, we only found out about it after he left Biscuits and Porn's team. He got arrested, and you traded him to Zach Getting Gritty. Also, you traded Bijan, who, and it did not come from me, ended up being sick with migraines or something this week and didn't play much. And there was no really alert by the Falcons that he wasn't going to be available. He had one carry towards the end of the game there for 3 yards and got you 0.3. And like I said, Olav and Bijan actually are no longer on Biscuit's team. He picked up a wide receiver who happens to be on IR, and he picked up Javonte Williams to replace him. That wide receiver just so happens to be Justin Jefferson to pair with Kirk Cousins. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully Biscuits and Porn season is not over before Justin Jefferson can come back and do him some favors. All right. Josh Jacobs, only 5. Kittle, 13. Brian Robinson in the flex saves you with a touchdown, 8.3. Matt Gay gets you about 6 point something. And the Detroit Lions defense, I actually believe this was the correct score. I should have just played Baltimore because it was my defense versus your defense. Like, why wouldn't I have done that? Past Craig is an idiot. Future Craig knows everything. Obviously. And 3 points was the score. For Biscuits, set a lot of single-digit scores here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. More than half of your team in single digits there. Usually not going to get it done, even though Cousins did all he could. Fortunately for me, it was mostly to Addison. And the Wizard of Winburn moves up to 5-2. They are in second place. While Biscuits and Porn drops to 3-4, he is in 7th place. Next up, Darkwing Jet versus Getting Gritty. Gritty trying to climb back into things, and Darkwing Jet trying to regain his footing after starting off strong. Kind of cooled off the past couple of weeks, but Darkwing Jet gets the victory. 170.15 to Getting Gritty's 140.40. For Darkwing, let's see, we got Stafford going for 29.5, Tyreek 26, a quiet game for him. Tyler Lockett 8, Dotson you picked up because I think somebody was out. CD was on a bye. I don't think you really had. You needed a flex play. You moved Osborne down to the flex there. Dotson got you 9.3, not too bad for a waiver wire plug and play. James Cook, 19. Najee, 16. Darren Waller, 23. Sid Osborne in the flex gets you 9.7. Your kicker, Elliott, gets 6 point something. And then another plug and play here, the Atlanta Falcons defense. They pull out a victory there at the end of the game, getting you a couple extra points. Yahoo says 15. Looks like your bump was about 9 up to 24. So yeah, not great scores from your quarterback. And, 24 pretty good from your defense. Couple single digits there, but Waller came through. Tyreek, your Cook and Najee both came through for you this week. That 170. It was enough to get past getting gritty this week. Let's take a look. He had Jordan Love go for 37. Christian Kirk, Christian Kirk, 19. Courtland Sutton, 19 and a half. Perhaps not as bad of a pickup as I initially thought it might be. He's been scoring touchdowns for you each week since you got him. 19.6. Gabe Davis, though, only 1.6. Javonte, 12 and a half. Though said he's no longer on your team. Aaron Jones, 8.7. Musgrave gets 7. Josh Palmer in the flex, actually pretty good game from him, 18.3. Butker goes for 7 point something. And then your Saints defense actually lost to Jacksonville there on Thursday night. I believe that score must have been correct. Yahoo says 9, and the score was 9. All right, a 30-point difference here. Really not too much that Getting Gritty could have done this week. All of his Bengals are, he got rid of his Bengals. His Bengals that he has left is just Mixon. They were on bye. Adam Thielen was on bye. Dak Prescott was on bye. You probably would have started all three of those guys if they had played this week. Perhaps even Hubbard. If Miles Sanders had been out this week, would have been some tough choices there. Probably Thielen over Gabe Davis, obviously. You got decent scores from those guys. Aaron Jones kind of been a disappointment. Not really sure if he's recovered from that hamstring injury totally yet, but yeah. Unfortunately for Getting Gritty, he drops to 2 and 5. Let's see. He made a trade. He traded for he got Bijan and he got Olave. So now he's gonna have. You got rid of Javonte, replacing Javonte with Bijan. Then you'll have Mixon there, and I don't know if you're gonna trust Aaron Jones till he proves something. Then you got Thielen in there. You've got wide receivers. You're probably going to be starting 4 wide receivers from here on out. I'm going to guess until Aaron Jones shows something. You got Kirk. You got Sutton. You got Olave. You've got Thielen. That's 4. You got Josh Palmer. So you've got 5. Gabe Davis, who I happen to know you are trying to get rid of now. So yeah, you've got a ton of wide receivers. So Mixon and Bijan now. We'll see what happens there. But will it be too little, too late? Said you're 2 and 5, 10th place. You got to turn things around. Meanwhile, Darkwing Jut moves up to 4 and 3, and he is now in 4th place. Also, should mention, Getting Gritty, you are eliminated from the knockout pool this week. You are the 7th team. Let's take a look here. That leaves the people who are still in the knockout pool. The Wizard of Winber, Dub C Hooligans, Ed Lager, Hillbillies on PCP, and Possum Magic. Still holding on there. So, me, B, Tree, ED, Ed, and Dub C. Perfect. Me, B, Tree, Dub C, ED. So yeah, I enjoyed that at least. None of the rest of you did probably. All right, then we've got. Speaking of not enjoying this, the Battle of the Basement: Gags to Riches versus Disco. Danny AIDS. He is now just straight up AIDS. Disco AIDS was looking to climb out of the basement this week. Things were looking bright up against Gags to Riches, who has been in a tailspin himself these past few weeks. And unfortunately for Disco, Gags to Riches gets the victory this week. 152.2 to 118.75. Excuse me. All right. Well, on the bright side, Disco, the pain continues for Gags to Riches, because in victory he did suffer in victory. Tua goes for 34.5. Michael Thomas 13.2. Chris Godwin 12.5. Kadarius Toney 2.5. Jerome Ford, his big pickup to replace Chubb earlier in the season, did get a long touchdown this week, so he actually had 20.5 points this week. But unfortunately, he has a high ankle sprain, a low-grade high ankle sprain that's going to put him out for a couple of weeks. So, Gags, let's take a look, see what you're going to do. You're hoping that Miles Sanders comes back from his bye week, healthy enough to play. You got A.J. Dillon, and you don't have very many running backs there. Gags, you've got Latavius Murray, hoping that he falls into the end zone probably. Without Ford, you've got Murray, you've got Sanders, and you've got Dillon. So I'm going to assume Gags going forward is probably going to be starting 4 wide receivers. He had T on bye this week. He's got Devo, who can't seem to stay healthy. So Thomas, Godwin, Toney doesn't really do anything. So let's get through the lineup here first. So Ford went for 20.5, though he got hurt. Going to be out for a little while. Murray gets 5. Kyle Pitts, 7.7. Dillon was in the flex, 11.5. Tucker, your kicker, goes for 8 point something. And then the Bears defense, Yahoo says 22. You got a pretty good bump there. Looks like about 15 to 37, I think, something like that, in a row. 37 in a row. But anyway, it was more than enough to get past AIDS this week. Let's call them AIDS, maybe. That's an acronym for something. But anyway, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm about 98% sure. This is the first time in the 21-year history of Tonto's Demise that someone's quarterback has finished the game with negative points. Kickers have done it. Other players have done it. I don't believe that ever has a quarterback done it. If it's happened once, maybe twice, so like once every 10 years. AIDS. No Burrow this week, no Chase. You played Deshaun Watson, who is coming back from an injury. And he gets smacked down very early on in this game. He has 1 completion. He has for 5 yards. And then he also throws an interception, which took you back the -3. So the 1.25 that you had there, -3. Deshaun Watson's score this week, -1.7. Waddle goes for 12.5. Hollywood Brown, 8. Elijah Moore, 10. Gibbs, garbage time hero this week, 28 points for him. Scores his first NFL touchdown, I believe they said. A bunch of catches, good yardage there. Said it was garbage time pretty much from the entire second half was garbage time, if not a little bit longer in that game. Royce Freeman. Somebody blows the dust off of Royce Freeman, and he goes for 6.6. Gerald Everett, 11.5. CMC, 22.6. Scores 2 touchdowns this week. I was talking to Jim a little bit earlier and said that I read somewhere that if you had started this season putting money, if you had put money on Christian McCaffrey to score a touchdown, and then he obviously did it in week 1 because he scored every touchdowns every single week. I believe he's actually at like a 15-game touchdown streak, something like that. So I don't even know how long exactly that goes back. If you had started, imagine if you had started all the way back then, but if you had started at the beginning of this season and said put $20 on McCaffrey to score a touchdown, and then just rolled over your profit every single week, you would, I forget what it is, you'd have a stupid amount of money right now. 7 weeks in, said if you just kept rolling that money over and over. But he's been a touchdown machine. We'll see how long that streak lasts. Yeah, just a little interesting tidbit there for you. Your kicker, Sanders for Miami. He actually kicked a field goal this week. They didn't score 8 touchdowns this week. So 6 point something. And then your Washington defense, probably were expecting much better things. Once again, the expectations were high once again. And once again, the Washington Commanders defense, let's see. I mean, don't want to say they let you down. Was it last week or what week? Oh, it was Chicago 2 weeks ago on that Thursday night. They, yeah, the score is correct. Actually, AIDS. We actually did not have to adjust any of your points this week, so the actual score was 16. Not terrible, but not great either. And Sanders' field goal must have been a 40-yarder because no adjustments were required to your score this week. You gave it the old college try. Said CMC only needed about 30 more points, 34 more points, 55-ish to get you a victory here. If anybody can do it, it's CMC, but it was not meant to be. For Brandon B, let's see what you got here. You had said Chase and Burr were on bye, so you were probably not optimistic about this week. You really needed Deshaun Watson, your beloved Cleveland Browns, to come through this week. And, oh man, the worst part about this is who knows what would have happened if Deshaun Watson had played this week, because that game was fucking crazy. Colts and the Browns, 39-38. So there was points to go around everywhere. I was very much surprised by this. With P.J. Walker at the quarterback, and Cleveland's defense, how good they've been this year, that they gave up almost 40 points to the Colts. But yeah, that game was watching a little bit of it, the back and forth was pretty wild. So yeah, just to rub it in a little bit there, imagine what Deshaun Watson could have done if he had thrown more than 2 passes in this game. I'm going to guess he had to throw at least 2 because he had a completion and an interception. If he had stayed in there, who knows what would have happened. But anyway, Gags, you're 3-4. You're in 9th place. Your season is perhaps saved, at least for the time being. And meanwhile, AIDS, you dropped to 1-6. You remain in 12th place. And you know how I feel. You know exactly how I felt this time last year. Yeah. It hurts. It definitely hurts. All right, next up, we had a slugfest grudge match. Dub C Hooligans versus Yinzer Jags. Said somebody was trying to get win number 5, and Dub C goes off this week. 229.95, getting the victory over Yinzer Jags to his respectable 178.15. But pretty much everything that could have gone right for Dub C went right this week. His team goes off, set for 230. Josh Allen, 53. AJ Brown, who has, I believe, had 5 straight games over 125 yards receiving. He goes for another 30. Ayuk gets 10.5. Keenan, 9.5. But the big one here was your running backs, who we all laughed at. Possibly deservedly so, but you get the dream. The miracle happens for you this week. Gus Edwards scores a touchdown, makes an 80-yard reception, gets you 21.5. Meanwhile, Deontay Foreman in there because all the other running backs for the Bears are injured. We'll see what happens when Roshan comes back. But yeah, he scores 3 touchdowns this week, 90 rushing yards. You definitely had some receiving stats in there. Foreman gets you 33 points. So almost 55 points from Gus Edwards and Deontay Foreman. Words I will never, ever, ever speak in the same sentence again. I will confidently say that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. Hawkinson, 11 catches, 19.5 points. Stevenson in the flex, 14.5. Been throwing a lot of passes his way these past few weeks. So it looks like 11 of his 14.5 came from catches. Koo kicks a game-winning field goal for Atlanta, gets you about 13. And then your Chiefs defense, Yahoo says 17. Looks like you got about, would it be a 9-point bump there? I don't know. Koo kicked a bunch of field goals there, so I'm not quite sure if you didn't have any long touchdowns. Because you gained 9 point. I don't think Koo. I mean, it's possible. I'm gonna guess it must have been 9, and then Koo got 0.6, even though he had 3 field goals there. They must have been like 21 and 41 or something, like 51 maybe. But anyway, so yeah, tacked 9 onto the Chiefs defense there, so a score of 26. So yeah, Dub C popping off this week, said with a 53, a 30, a 21, a 33, a 20, and a 26 there. So yeah, it was enough to get past Yinzer Jags this week, who had Jalen Hurts go for 48, DJ Moore 13.5, Cooper Kupp only 6, Dubs 11, Kamara probably got you excited on Thursday night, thinking good things were coming ahead for you. But fool's gold, Kamara was this week. He gets 29.3. Let's see. 12 catches for 91 yards. So that is 21 of his 29 points came from receiving stats. Those little dump-off passes. But they all count. Walker over 100 yards and no touchdowns there. 6 catches. So he got you 16. Laporta, 11. Jalen Warren in the flex scores a touchdown, gets you 10.1. Your kicker, Maher from the Rams. He He missed 3 of his 4 kicks this week. He was so upset about your loss and being in your lineup, and I guess just being on your team this week, that he is now a free agent. He's no longer a part of the Los Angeles Rams. He's gone. He's NA. He got you 1 point, and now I think you are carrying 2 kickers already anyway for some reason. But yeah, you're going to be dropping him, and we'll see what you do there. But yeah, he was so sick to his stomach about this loss to Dub C that he quit your team. He said, I'm done. I'm out of here. And he's gone. Philadelphia Eagles defense, Yahoo says 13. You got a decent bump up to about, it looks like they gained 18 or so to 31. So you did win this defensive battle. But yeah, not much you can do when said Edwards and Foreman popped off for 55 points against there. Kind of reminds me of a matchup one time many moons ago when someone named Jonathan Stewart and someone whose name I don't even remember scored like 55 points against you. What was that guy's name? From the Cowboys, I think. I know you don't want me to. I'm gonna waste a couple seconds here. But I am going to, I know it's on my Instagram here somewhere, so I don't post a lot of Instagram, so I should be able to find it fairly quickly because I want to know what that guy's name was. I know he was on the Cowboys, and he had a name that was like similar to someone else's name before. Okay, Jonathan Stewart and R. Smith. Was it Robert Smith? I'm gonna guess. I think it was Robert Smith. Was never heard from again. But I think was it a playoff matchup? Him and Jonathan Stewart actually went for 64 points. So not quite as bad. But yeah, Gus Edwards and Deontay Foreman going for 54, 55 against you. I can already hear Brian saying in the podcast next week, Craig had such a good time ripping in your team to shreds, making fun of you, and ha ha ha, this and that. Just saying what happened, man. But that's my job here as part of the review. You know what happened. I gotta give you information that maybe you forgot. Little nuggets that you're not just like, yeah. Well, I mean, because let's face it, I'm reviewing what happened. You guys, you all know what happened. I'm not giving you, for the most part, new information. So I gotta come up with some. I gotta dig into the past, find some things for you. And so yeah, my gifts to you guys. Anyway, Disco. Why am I talking about Disco? Oh, because I just saw when I was looking at that he got rid of Deshaun Watson. So we'll see if he's gonna burrow it for the rest of the year. I'm gonna guess because Burrow's had his bye, so he's done. Anyway, not Disco. Dub C moves to 5-2. He is in 3rd place, while Yinzer Dags drops to 4-3 and moves actually all the way down to 6th place because there's a bunch of teams that are 4-3 now. All right, what else we got? We got Ed Logger versus the Shawshank Athletics. 2 teams going in different directions. Ed's been on a tear, while Shawshank, much like Gags, has been on a bit of a downward spiral lately. And Ed Logger gives Shawshank Athletics the back of his hand, 184 to 113.85. For Ed Logger, Patrick Mahomes, He was over 300 yards in the first half of this game. Ends up with 424, 74 points this week. Practically enough with just a couple other things to get past Shawshank this week. I said Mahomes does that every couple times every year. Just goes off for like a 70-something. His receivers, Devontae, Mike Evans, and Zay Flowers. 12.5, 20.5, 11.5. Mostert, only 6. Swift, then both your running backs playing in the same game this week. Swift, 10.5. Cole Kmet, your tight end, goes for a big 0. And Scary Terry goes for 15 in the flex there. You also playing the same kicker and defense. You got Seattle. Said Myers goes for about 9. And the Seattle defense, Yahoo says 10. Looks like you gained about 15 up to 25. So yeah, 100 points from your buns there. All you needed was a little bit from the rest of the middle there. Even though Komet got you a 0, it was more than enough excuse me, to get past Shawshank this week, who really surprisingly, in a matchup of quarterback versus quarterback, Chiefs versus Chargers, Justin Herbert really just shit the bed this week. Yeah, that hurts. Said watching Mahomes go crazy. This game should have been a shootout, really. Herbert only gets 28.5 points. So nearly 50 points behind Mahomes there at Ed's quarterback. That puts you in a tough spot every single time when your opponent's quarterback is 50 points ahead of you. That's a big hill to try to climb, or a big hole, I should say, to try to climb out of. Judy goes for, you got Judy, Amari, and Rashad Bateman. Ugh. That receiving core. 11.5, 4.2, 5.5. Saquon goes for 18.8. Kareem Hunt scores 2 touchdowns, gets you 15. Jonnu Smith, 5.7. Zeke, blowing the dust off of Zeke, gets you, he scores a touchdown. He falls into the end zone this week, gets you 9 points. And you also have the kicker and defense, as we know, from the same team, San Fran and Moody. Moody decides to he actually decided to make a couple kicks this week. He started off with a miss, but then he decided I should probably start kicking it between the uprights and not to the left or the right there. And he gets you about 6 point something. While the San Fran defense, Yahoo says 6. I think 9 was the actual point total from them. They gave up a ton of yards, a lot of points, and lost to the Minnesota Vikings this week. But yeah, for Josh, Herbert really let you down while Mahomes went crazy. Otherwise, the difference here between your lineups, not really huge differences there. Scoring wise, and up and down the rest of your lineups. So a big difference there with your defenses. So you would have liked San Francisco to come through for you a little bit more, but let's face it, you lost by 70 points. So you needed a lot of things to be different there. But yeah, your wide receiver core hurt you, and your defense hurt you. You had no Garrett Wilson, no Derrick Henry, no DeAndre Hopkins. Really not too much you could have done this week to change things. Again, you lost by 70. Yeah. So Ed Logger gave you the pimp slap back of his hand. 4-3 Ed Logger is currently, and he is in 5th place. While Shawshank drops to 3-4, he is in 8th place. All right, and finally, we got the king of the hill, top of the mountain. Hillbillies on PCP going up against Possum Magic, looking to extend his win streak to 6 games. And he does it this week, going over 200 points. Possum said really needed this one, but wasn't meant to be. 202.55 to Possum's 157.1. Like I said, we're 7 weeks in, and even though Possum Magic is now 2-5, he is still in the knockout pool. So he's been doing all right, just been getting bad luck. The Magic is not here yet. Still waiting to arrive in the mail, I guess. Hillbillies on PCP. Let's take a look. Lamar Jackson pops off for 62. Pickens, Pittman, and Watson. 15.5, 16.5, and 6. ETN, another 2-touchdown game. He goes for 22.5. Matheson goes for 6. Travis Kelce going crazy again. 39 points from him. Just watching a lot of that game. It's Travis Kelce. He is wide. I can't believe how often he's wide open. Like, cover that guy. He's the guy you have to cover on the Chiefs' offense. Yet it's unbelievable how often he is just wide open. What is going on? You're not double teaming him. But what do I know? 12 catches, 180 yards, and a touchdown. Taylor Swift sprinkling her magic pixie dust onto him. So as long as he's in love, I guess he's going to perform. Maybe I should have taken him over Stephon Diggs this year. I'm very happy with Diggs, but Kelce would have been nice. But I do think my wide receiver core wouldn't be nearly as efficient as it is. And said, by taking Kelce that early, it does leave your wide receivers a little bit with a little bit to be desired there, Brian. But you know that. But we'll see what happens. Taylor, he goes for 21 in the flex there. He's starting to come back, round into form. Your kicker and your defense are again the same team. Buffalo, Bass goes for about 4 point something, and perhaps surprisingly, imagine what your score could have been this week if Buffalo had not scored. Yahoo says 4. Looks like you got a 6-point bump to only 10. They lost to the New England Patriots this week. But it was more than enough to get past Possum Magic. Brock Purdy goes for 34.5. Calvin Ridley. What is going on with Calvin Ridley? Guy started off the season fantastic with a 25-point game. Then he's trailed off into mostly single-digit scores. He did have a 20-pointer 2 weeks ago. But yeah, so much potential. Where did it go? He's been letting you down more often than he's been being there for you. Only 1.5 this week. Amon-Ra, 23.5. Wandale Robinson, 3.2. Pacheco, another touchdown for him. He gets you 16. Austin Eckler, another big disappointment. Not really sure what's going on there, especially in a game that should have been even more of a shootout than it was. Eckler, only 5.6. He was coming back from his ankle injury, but they just had a bye week. Really expected more from him. Goddard, another touchdown for him, 18.5. Drake London, 11.5. Your MVP this week, perhaps. His name Dustin? Yeah, Dustin Hopkins, the Browns kicker. He goes for, he kicks 3 50-plus yard field goals. And he also has another one. He gets you a couple, He goes for like 23, 24 points from your kicker. And then Jacksonville's defense on Thursday night, Yahoo says 13. Looks like you got a bump of about 9 would be too much. I would say 6 to about 19. But it wasn't enough to get past Hillbillies this week. Like I said, he went over the 200-point barrier and put Possum Magic down to 2-5. He is in 11th place. Meanwhile, said Hillbillies on PCP gets consecutive win number 6, and he remains in first place. Wearing out all your luck now in the regular season, Brian. Never a good idea. So yeah, let's see. Take a look here at the standings. Once again, nice symmetry. I like it. We've got a 6-1 and a 1-6 at each end. Then we've got 2 5-2s and 2 2-5s on each end. Then we've got 3 4-3s, and we've got 3 3-4s. So we're starting to get a little bit of separation between the top and the bottom. I think this week what a lot of the teams at the top played teams at the bottom. Other outside of Dub C and Yinzer Jags, said the guys who were in the bottom 6 of the standings said pretty much all played the top, and you pretty much all lost, except for Gags, who really moved up a little bit, but he's still the only team below 1,000 points total. But yeah, so the top 6 teams stayed the same, and the bottom 7 stayed the same. Said so a little bit of standings separation starting to happen here. Said those guys who were at the bottom, you needed more than one of you needed to get a victory this week to kind of muddle things up a little bit. Still, we're only halfway. Still time to turn it around, but the clock is starting to tick a little bit here. So let's take a look at the Week 8 matchups to see what we've got for those guys who are in the middle there at 4-3, 3-4, trying to climb back in it or separate from the pack. We got the Wizard going against Gags. That's not what you're hoping for, probably Gags this week. Dub C versus Biscuits. Said Biscuits making some trades, needs to really work things around. You don't really want to drop to 3-4 and put your 3-5, I should say. Put yourself in a difficult spot because 7 wins is maybe making the playoffs. 8 wins definitely, because now that you can't finish 7-6 or 6-7 since we have 14. You can be 7-7 and probably still make the playoffs, but you're probably not going to feel comfortable without getting to 8. And if you're 3-5 with 3-5 with 6 weeks to go, it's pretty much win out or go home at that point. So yeah, Biscuits, Shawshank, Gags, these are tough times. Not as bad, not as tough as the other guys below you, but yeah, you really need to get a win, because you don't want to end up, if you end up 3-5, that means your best possible record is 9-5, but that means you pretty much have to win the rest of your games. So yeah, very enlightening statements here from me. Anyway, let's see. Let's see. The point is, you guys who are 3-4, you can't really afford to drop to 3-5. You need to turn things around and do it quickly. Said Gags is one of those guys. He's going against the Wizard. Dub C Biscuits is one of them. Also, he's going against Dub C, who's been hot lately. Josh, he is against Darkwing. Actually favored in this matchup according to Yahoo, so we'll have to see how that goes in terms of issues and bye weeks there. AIDS, he's up against he pretty much has to win every single game from here on out. He's got Ed Lager, even though he's got a pretty solid lineup there, of course. Ed Lager has been playing strong these past few weeks and is about a 10-point favorite according to Yahoo. Getting Gritty, he's 2-5. He's going against first place Hillbillies, trying to end that win streak. Going to be a tough one there for you. You dropped to 2-6. You're going to be in a tough spot for the rest of the season. And Possum Magic, same thing. You're going against Yinzer Jags. You don't want to drop to 2-6. So, yeah, we actually have, once again, this week, looks like the top half of, I think it's actually everybody. The top 6 teams are playing the bottom 6 teams. Me, Gags, Dub C, Biscuits is 7, Shawshank's 8, and Justin is 4. Ed is 5. So yeah, actually, guys at the bottom half of the standings, you need to show up this week because you're all facing teams in the top half, and if you lose, that is going to create an even more separation there, and your playoff hopes the door will close a little bit. The window is going to shut. So doors go this way, and windows go this way. On your playoff hopes here, you always want to see some guys make a run for it, climb up, climb the standings there. But we'll see what happens. Should be interesting. An interesting week to see what happens. See what the projections are here for some of you guys. AIDS, his Bengals are going to be at San Francisco. I mean, you're looking at you got any bye week issues really? Not really anymore for AIDS. He's looking pretty good, not yet at least. Ed Lager, really no bye week issues yet for him either. You must pretty much have all your guys on later bye weeks, so Ed. So it's gonna might come around to bite you here sooner or later. Let's see. Don't really see any bye week issues for Ed either this week. Excuse me. So yeah, you guys are going to be going head to head, full force. So that should, even though it doesn't matter what Disco's record or projection is, we all know he's got a team that could pop off for 220 any given week here. So that should be interesting one to see. And then Getting Gritty, he's making some trades, working things out. We'll see what happens with him. So he's trying to knock off Hillbillies and end that winning streak. Really doesn't look like any bye week issues for you guys either this week. So always fun to see teams going at each other full strength here. So we will see what happens. Is that it? Yeah, I said Getting Gritty was eliminated from the knockout pool this week. So yeah, that leaves me, B, Tree, Dub C, and ED left. We'll see what happens here. Good luck to all of you. All right, not too significant, anything really with injury-wise this week, so that was always nice. Yeah, that's it pretty much for week 7. Guys, well, thanks for listening, watching, or whatever it is you do. May all of your players meet or exceed expectations this week. All of them. Literally everyone. No injuries. Everybody's fine. And Bean, your dog, I think, took a shit right there on top of the wizard hat. You might want to clean that up. Also, I don't know what's going on right here, but he's not going to see it. He's never going to see it anyway, so it doesn't matter. We can say anything we want about Disco. From here on out, he's never going to know. Shh. It's just between you and me. He's never going to know. No one's going to tell him. It won't be me, and it won't be him, because he's not going to watch. Unless he gets a victory. Then I got to be real careful. He might actually watch the review for once. Alright, guys. Thanks for listening, watching, blah, blah, blah. Do this, do that. See you then. Back here next week for the events of Week 8. Like I said, this is an important week for you guys in the bottom half of the standings. If you're going to turn things around, it has to probably start this week. So yeah, interesting to see the way that it worked out. Said the top half is playing the bottom half, and you guys need to muddle things up a little bit instead of to keep your playoff hopes alive. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting week, and again, a crucial week for some of you guys there in the bottom half of the standings. So, all right, everyone, we will see you back here next week to recap the events of Week 8. Halloween's coming before you. Actually, next Tuesday will be Halloween, so should be fun. Hope all you guys have a good time. Enjoy it with your kids, blah blah blah, or whatever you do. You're adorable little Rugrats. I'll just be here probably doing a recap and jerking off like a typical Tuesday. Maybe eat some Maybe I'll eat some candy after I jerk off. Too much. That's probably too much information, guys. I really just need to. When I say goodbye, I just need to stop talking and say goodbye. All right, guys. Yeah, because then it's going to be November already. Yeah. All right, guys. Good night and good luck.